Welcome to Ancient Sleep Stories. Tonight, we journey back to the grimy, fog-shrouded streets of Victorian London. You've just disembarked from a steam-belching locomotive at Paddington Station, and already the air claws at your lungs, a noxious blend of coal smoke, horse dung, and the ever-present stench of the Thames. Where will you find respite in this labyrinth of brick and soot? Where can one truly breathe in a city choking on its own progress? Before we plunge into the depths of 19th century London, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy the stories I share. I would love to know where you are listening from, and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's always fascinating to see the global tapestry of our nocturnal community. Now, dim your lights. Perhaps light a candle for that flickering ambience, and let's step back in time together. As you emerge from the station, the first thing that strikes you is the ethereal dance of gaslight. Flickering lamps line the streets, casting long shadows that seem to writhe and twist with a life of their own. The facades of buildings loom above, their once proud architecture now shrouded in a thick layer of soot. It's as if the very bricks are weeping black tears, mourning the loss of their former glory. The cacophony of the streets assaults your senses. Horse-drawn carriages clatter by, their wheels throwing up a spray of mud and less savory substances. Hawkers cry out their wares, competing with the shouts of costermongers and the plaintive calls of chimney sweeps. The chaos is overwhelming, a far cry from the pastoral scenes you may have left behind in the countryside. London in the 1800s is a city bursting at the seams. By 1850, its population has swollen to an unprecedented 2.5 million souls, with more pouring in every day. The city struggles to contain this human tide, expanding outwards in a frenzy of brick and mortar. Yet for all its growth, there's never enough space, never enough air to breathe. Where will you lay your head in this teeming metropolis? For most newcomers, the answer lies in the crowded tenements of Whitechapel, Southwark, or Clerkenwell. Here, entire families are crammed into single rooms, sharing communal privies and water pumps. The buildings themselves seem to lean drunkenly against one another, as if exhausted by the weight of human misery they contain. In Whitechapel, you might find yourself in a doss house, paying pennies for a rope to sleep against, a cruel parody of rest that leaves you more exhausted than refreshed. The air is thick with the sound of coughing, a constant reminder of the diseases that lurk in every shadow. Life is brutally short in these crowded quarters. In London's East End, the average life expectancy is under 30 years. Death is an ever-present companion, striking down the young and old with terrifying impartiality. The causes are myriad, but three specters loom largest: cholera, typhoid, and tuberculosis. Cholera sweeps through the slums with horrifying regularity, spread by contaminated water from pumps drawing directly from the sewage-choked Thames. Its victims suffer agonizing deaths, their bodies drained of fluids as they waste away in a matter of days. Typhoid fever is another constant threat, lurking in the filth-encrusted streets and contaminated food. It brings with it weeks of fever, delirium, and intestinal hemorrhage. Many who survive are left weakened for life, easy prey for the next epidemic to sweep through. But perhaps most feared of all is tuberculosis, the white plague that wastes its victims slowly, inexorably. It's said you can hear the rattling coughs echoing through the narrow alleys at night, a grim lullaby for those trying to sleep. The fear of disease permeates every aspect of life in Victorian London. It's in the wary glances cast at coughing strangers, in the desperate attempts to keep clean, in a city where filth seems to seep from the very pores of the earth. Even the wealthy, ensconced in their grand houses, cannot escape the miasma of dread that hangs over the city. As night falls, the dangers only multiply. Gas lamps cast pools of sickly light, barely penetrating the thick fog that rolls in from the river. This is the infamous London fog, a poisonous blend of natural mist and coal smoke that can turn day into night. It clings to your clothes, coats your throat, and leaves you gasping for breath. In the narrow alleys of Seven Dials or the Warren-like streets of the East End, footpads and cutthroats lurk in the shadows. The click of a flintlock or the glint of a blade might be the last thing you see before darkness claims you. Even the police, the newly formed metropolitan force known as peelers, are hard-pressed to maintain order in this urban jungle. Yet for all its horrors, London in the 1800s is a city of stark contrasts and unexpected beauty. In the grand squares of Mayfair or the tree-lined avenues of Kensington, a different world exists. Here, ladies in crinolines promenade arm in arm with gentlemen in top hats, seemingly oblivious to the suffering mere miles away. The city is a crucible of innovation and industry. In workshops and factories, the seeds of the Industrial Revolution are taking root. Steam engines hiss and clank, powering looms and presses that churn out goods at an unprecedented rate. In the shipyards along the Thames, great iron-hulled vessels take shape, ready to carry British influence to the farthest corners of the globe. Intellectual life flourishes as well. In the coffeehouses of Fleet Street, journalists and writers debate the issues of the day. The works of Dickens, exposing the harsh realities of urban life, are devoured by an increasingly literate public. In the halls of the Royal Society, scientists and natural philosophers push the boundaries of human knowledge. As you lie down to sleep, whether on a rope, in a doss house or a feather bed in Belgravia, the sounds of the city never truly fade. There's always the distant clop of hooves, the cry of a night watchman, or the mournful whistle of a train. London never sleeps. It merely dozes fitfully, always ready to surge back to life with the dawn. In the morning, you'll wake to the calls of street vendors and the acrid smell of coal fires being stoked. Another day in Victorian London begins, full of possibility and peril in equal measure. Will you find your fortune in this great, terrible city? Or will you become just another statistic, another nameless victim of its unforgiving streets? As we draw our journey to a close, I hope you found a moment of respite in our exploration of the past. Remember, while we may romanticize certain aspects of history, the reality was often harsh and unforgiving. Perhaps it makes us appreciate the comforts and advances of our own time a little more. If you enjoyed this glimpse into Victorian London, please consider supporting the channel. Your likes, comments, and subscriptions help keep these stories alive. Are you asleep or just about? Then how about we go into surviving Victorian street food? The night air hangs heavy with the scent of boiled meats and acrid smoke. Your stomach rumbles, a primal call, echoing through cobblestone alleys. But beware, hungry traveler, not all that sizzles and steams on these Victorian streets is fit for consumption. As you wander through the gaslit haze, a cacophony of vendors' cries assaults your ears. Hot eels! Get your hot eels here! A woman with weathered hands ladles slippery morsels from a steaming pot. Nearby, a ruddy-faced man slices thick wedges of meat pie, the greasy crust glistening in the lamplight. The sight of sheep's trotters, oiled hooves displayed in grimy windows, might turn a weaker constitution. For those with simpler tastes, chunks of day-old bread float in bowls of milk, a humble meal for pennies. But hunger can be a dangerous bedfellow in these times. The 1875 Sale of Food and Drugs Act stands as a grim testament to the horrors lurking within seemingly innocent fare. Unscrupulous bakers bulk up their loaves with alum, a harsh astringent that wreaks havoc on delicate stomachs. That fiery kick in your cayenne? It might be brick dust, ground fine to stretch profits. Even the sweet treats hold sinister secrets, lead salts lending a deadly shimmer to candies that dance enticingly in shop windows. The streets themselves are a living, breathing marketplace. Hot potato sellers balance trays precariously, steam rising from their wares like spectral fingers. Whelk women, voices hoarse from hours of shouting, hawk their salty mollusks to passing laborers. The muffin man's bell rings out a siren song, drawing children with pennies clutched in grubby fists. When thirst strikes, the gin palace beckons with its gaudy facade. Inside, mirrors multiply the meager light, creating an illusion of grandeur amidst the squalor. For many, a tankard of beer serves as both breakfast and balm against the day's toils. Henry Mayhew, that tireless chronicler of London's underbelly, recounts conversations with vendors who start their days with a pint o' four Alf, a potent blend of porter and ale that dulls the senses and steels the nerves. But for every adult seeking solace in drink, there's a child whose growth is stunted by malnutrition. Rickets twists young bones, a cruel legacy of vitamin deficiency. In the factories and workshops, hollow-eyed children labor on empty stomachs, their bodies crying out for nourishment that meager wages can't provide. As night deepens, the streets grow quieter. The last vendors pack away their wares, counting meager earnings by guttering candlelight. Tomorrow, the cycle begins anew, a desperate dance of survival played out on cobblestones, slick with grease and grime. You've survived another day in this gastronomic gauntlet, but at what cost? The rumble in your belly may be silenced, but the memory of questionable morsels lingers. In this world of culinary deception, even the simplest meal becomes an act of faith or foolishness. The illustrations in Punch magazine capture this precarious existence with biting wit. A skeletal figure labeled adulteration looms over a dining table, while plump merchants count their ill-gotten gains. Victorian cookbooks, with their precise measurements and genteel instructions, seem a world away from the rough-and-tumble reality of street fare. Yet life finds a way, even in the harshest conditions. The resourcefulness of the poor is a marvel to behold. Offal, once discarded, becomes the centerpiece of hearty stews. Vegetables past their prime are transformed into bubbling soups that warm body and soul. Even the lowly potato, when baked in its jacket and topped with a pat of dubious butter, becomes a feast fit for a king, or at least a king of the gutters. The costermongers, those colorful characters who ply their trade from handcarts and donkey-drawn wagons, are the lifeblood of this street-level economy. Their cries form a symphony of survival. Oranges and lemons, fresh herrings, 3 a penny. Each vendor has their own patch, their own loyal customers, their own tricks of the trade passed down through generations. But for every honest trader, there's a charlatan waiting to prey on the unwary. The cat's meat man might be selling something far less savory than advertised. That aromatic coffee could be little more than scorched bread crusts and chicory. Even the milk, that most innocent of beverages, is often watered down, or worse, chalk and grain matter have been known to make an appearance in less reputable dairies. As dawn breaks, the streets come alive once more. The night soil men finish their malodorous rounds, clearing away the evidence of human habitation. Bakers throw open their doors, the scent of fresh bread mingling with less savory aromas. Workers stumble from overcrowded lodging houses, their stomachs already growling for midday sustenance. In the markets, a different kind of theater unfolds. Butchers engage in good-natured shouting matches, each claiming their cuts are the freshest, the leanest, the best value for money. Fishmongers arrange their glistening wares with artistic flair, ice slowly melting in the morning sun. Here, at least, the food is generally what it claims to be, though the definition of fresh might be stretched to its limits. For those with coin to spare, oysters are a popular treat. Once so plentiful they were considered poor man's fare, overfishing has made them a delicacy. Street-side oyster bars do a roaring trade, shucking bivalves with practiced ease. But buyer beware, a bad oyster can lead to a night of gastrointestinal distress that makes one long for the relative comfort of a workhouse infirmary. As the day wears on, the air grows thick with coal smoke and the ever-present miasma of the Thames. In the poorer quarters, families gather around meager suppers, perhaps a bowl of peas pudding, a slice of bread, a morsel of cheese if they're lucky. In grander homes, elaborate multi-course dinners unfold. a world away from the gritty reality of street food. But even the wealthy aren't immune to the dangers of adulteration. That expensive green jelly might owe its vibrant hue to copper salts. The prized red wine could be little more than cheap plonk, doctored with logwood and sugar. In this era of culinary deception, trust is a luxury few can afford. As night falls once more, the cycle begins anew. Hungry souls venture out, driven by necessity or curiosity. The sizzle of frying fish, the steam from chestnut roasters, the clinking of glasses in crowded pubs, all form a siren song of sustenance and sociability. You pause at a corner, weighing your options. The hot chestnut seller eyes you hopefully, his wares giving off an enticing aroma. A nearby pie shop offers dubious warmth and the promise of a filling meal. In the distance, the muffled sounds of a gin palace beckon. Choose wisely, dear traveler. In this world of culinary Russian roulette, your next meal could be a delight or your last. Next, we will journey into disease, doctors, and the dead. In a city where sewage runs in open gutters and medicine is more guesswork than science, every sniffle could be your last. Will you trust the peddler with his vials of colored water, or the doctor whose hands are stained with the blood of his last patient? London, a city teeming with life and death in equal measure. The streets are a breeding ground for pestilence, where cholera lurks in every puddle and diphtheria floats on every breath. Smallpox leaves its mark on survivors, if they're lucky enough to live, while consumption slowly eats away at lungs and hope alike. These are the four horsemen of the Victorian apocalypse, riding through narrow alleys and grand boulevards without discrimination. As the death toll mounts, the carts make their grim rounds. Piled high with bodies, they creak through cobblestone streets, a macabre parade that never seems to end. Bunhill Fields, once a final resting place for dissenters and nonconformists, now groans under the weight of countless corpses. Its gates barely contain the mass of humanity pushed beneath the soil. But Bunhill is just the beginning. New cemeteries spring up like mushrooms after rain, each one filling faster than the last. The dead are everywhere, a constant reminder of mortality in a city struggling to stay alive. In the halls of medical knowledge, a battle rages. The old guard clings to miasma theory, convinced that bad air and noxious vapors are the source of all ills. They stuff their pockets with herbs and hold scented handkerchiefs to their noses, as if that could ward off the specter of disease. But a new idea is taking root, whispered in lecture halls and debated in pubs. Germ theory. Tiny, invisible creatures causing havoc in the body? It sounds like madness to some, but to others, it's the key to unlocking the mysteries of illness and death. When sickness strikes, where do you turn? The barber surgeon, with his blood-stained apron and gleaming instruments, ready to bleed you dry in the name of balance? Or perhaps the apothecary, his shelves lined with tinctures and powders of dubious origin. For many, home remedies passed down through generations are the only recourse. Onions in your socks, whiskey for the cough, and prayer for everything else. In this world of uncertainty, faith and folk wisdom are often the only medicines available. Even royalty isn't immune to the ravages of disease. Queen Victoria herself relies on the expertise of Sir William Jenner, a man who straddles the line between old beliefs and new discoveries. His methods may seem barbaric by modern standards, but in a world where every day is a fight for survival, any port in a storm will do. Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamp, shines a light on the deplorable conditions in hospitals. Her voice joins a growing chorus demanding change. The 1848 Public Health Act is a step in the right direction, but it's a drop in the ocean of filth that is Victorian London. Sanitation maps reveal the stark reality. Disease clusters around pumps and sewers, painting a damning picture of the city's infrastructure. In dimly lit offices, clerks pore over death registries, their quills scratching out a grim tally. Each entry is a life cut short, a family torn apart. The numbers tell a story of a city under siege, not by foreign invaders, but by invisible enemies that lurk in every shadow. As night falls and the gas lamps flicker to life, the fog thickens once more. In the distance, the muffled sound of coughing echoes through empty streets. Tomorrow, the dance begins anew. The doctors will don their coats, the herbalists will hawk their wares, and the people of London will face another day in a city where every breath could be their last. Will you survive to see the dawn? In this world of disease and desperation, only time will tell. The fog may lift, but the fever remains, a constant companion in a city balanced on the knife edge between life and death. The fog rolls in thick as a shroud, and with it comes the cough that rattles your bones. In a city where sewage runs in open gutters and medicine is more guesswork than science, every sniffle could be your last. Will you trust the peddler with his vials of colored water, or the doctor whose hands are stained with the blood of his last patient? London, a city teeming with life, is equally acquainted with death. The streets are a breeding ground for pestilence, where cholera lurks in every puddle and diphtheria floats on every breath. Smallpox leaves its mark on survivors, if they're lucky enough to live, while consumption slowly devours its victims from the inside out. These are the four horsemen of the Victorian apocalypse, riding through narrow alleys and grand boulevards alike. As the death toll mounts, the carts make their grim rounds. Piled high with bodies, they creak through the streets, a macabre parade heading for the overcrowded cemeteries. Bun Hill Fields, once a final resting place for dissenters and nonconformists, now struggles to contain the flood of corpses. Its gates strain under the weight of grief, while beyond its walls, new burial grounds spring up like mushrooms after rain, each one a testament to the city's losing battle against disease. In the halls of medical science, a war of ideas rages. The old guard clings to the miasma theory, convinced that foul air is the source of all ills. They burn incense and carry posies, as if flowers could ward off the specter of death. But a new breed of doctor is emerging, armed with microscopes and a radical notion. Tiny, invisible creatures might be the true culprits. This germ theory, still in its infancy, threatens to upend centuries of medical practice. For the average Londoner, caught between superstition and science, the choice of medical care is a gamble with steep odds. The barber surgeon, his pole striped with the colors of blood and bandages, offers quick fixes and quicker amputations. The apothecary's shop is a wonderland of dubious cures, where mercury and arsenic sit side by side with herbal tinctures. For those too poor or too wary of professional help, home remedies passed down through generations offer a last, desperate hope. Even royalty is not immune to the ravages of disease. Queen Victoria herself relies on the expertise of Sir William Jenner, a man who straddles the divide between old and new medicine. His methods, a blend of traditional wisdom and cutting-edge research, reflect the changing face of healthcare in a city on the brink of a medical revolution. In the midst of this miasma of death and disease, a beacon of hope emerges in the form of Florence Nightingale. Her lamp illuminates not just hospital wards, but the very foundations of modern nursing. With meticulous records and an unwavering belief in the power of cleanliness, she begins to turn the tide against infection. The 1848 Public Health Act marks a turning point, a grudging acknowledgement by the powers that be that something must be done. Sanitation maps become weapons in the war against filth, charting the spread of disease with the precision of a military campaign. Death registries, once mere ledgers of loss, become invaluable tools in understanding the patterns of mortality that grip the city. In the morgues and mortuaries, the dead tell their tales. Victorian mortuary records, filled with the clinical details of each demise, paint a grim picture of a population under siege. Each entry is a story cut short, a life snuffed out by forces barely understood. As night falls and the fog thickens once more, The sounds of the city change. The cough of the consumptive, the wail of the bereaved, the whispered prayers of those who hope to see another dawn. In this world of shadow and sickness, knowledge is as precious as life itself. Every day is a dance with death, every choice a gamble with fate. The streets of London are a battlefield, where the enemies are invisible and the casualties mount with each passing hour. In the fight against disease, there are no heroes, only survivors. And as the sun rises on another day in this city of plague and promise, one question remains: will you be among them? For those who walk these cobbled streets, life is a precarious balance. The air you breathe could carry the seeds of your destruction. The water you drink a poisoned chalice. Yet in the face of such odds, the human spirit endures. Mothers still sing lullabies to fever-racked children. Doctors still seek cures in the depths of their microscopes, and the great machinery of London grinds on, indifferent to the suffering in its shadows. The cemeteries continue to fill, each headstone a marker of defeat in the ongoing war. Yet for every grave dug, a child is born, a spark of hope in the darkness. The cycle of life and death spins on, relentless as the Thames that cuts through the heart of the city. In the end, survival in this world of miasma and mystery comes down to chance as much as choice. Will you be the one to discover a cure, or the next victim carried away on the death cart? Only time will tell, and in Victorian London, time is a luxury few can afford. As the fog lifts and a new day dawns, the city holds its breath. For in this place where death and life walk hand in hand, every sunrise is a victory, every heartbeat a defiance of the odds. And so, dear reader, as you navigate the perilous streets of this plague-ridden metropolis, remember, your next breath could be your last, or the first of many in a long and prosperous life. The choice, as always, is yours to make. The gas lamps flicker low as night falls. In the mist, every shadow hides a threat, and justice is neither swift nor kind. You'll need your wits to survive these streets. London's underbelly thrives in the darkness, a world of crime and deceit lurking just beneath the veneer of respectability. In the narrow alleys and dimly lit corners, pickpockets ply their trade with nimble fingers, relieving unsuspecting victims of their valuables. Con artists spin elaborate tales, their silver tongues weaving webs of deception to ensnare the gullible. And in the brothels that dot the cityscape, thieves prowl, preying on those who seek pleasure but find only misery. The names of notorious figures echo through the fog-shrouded streets, striking fear into the hearts of honest citizens. Charles Peace, the master burglar and murderer, eludes capture with a cunning that borders on the supernatural. His exploits have become the stuff of legend, whispered in hushed tones by those who dare to speak of such things. But even peace pales in comparison to the terror that grips Whitechapel. Jack the Ripper stalks the night, his bloody deeds etched into the very fabric of the city's nightmares. One might think that the Metropolitan Police, affectionately known as Bobbies, would be a bastion of safety in this sea of criminality. But their reputation is as tarnished as the brass buttons on their uniforms. Corruption runs deep, and many an officer turns a blind eye to the very crimes they're sworn to prevent. The people's trust in these supposed guardians of the law has eroded, leaving them to fend for themselves in a world where danger lurks around every corner. In the absence of reliable law enforcement, the common folk have turned to alternative means of protection. Local gangs, once viewed as part of the problem, now offer a twisted form of security to those under their aegis. Neighborhoods band together, forming their own patrols and watchmen, determined to keep their streets safe by any means necessary. It's a precarious balance, where the line between protector and oppressor blurs with each passing night. For those unfortunate souls caught in the grip of the law, the punishments are harsh and unforgiving. The gallows at Newgate Prison cast long shadows, a grim reminder of the fate that awaits those who stray too far from the path of righteousness. Public floggings draw crowds of onlookers, their cheers and jeers a cacophony that drowns out the cries of the condemned. Justice, it seems, is a spectacle to be savored by the masses. The Old Bailey stands as a testament to the city's attempts at order, its halls echoing with the voices of the accused and the accusers alike. Within its walls, the fates of countless individuals are decided, their stories recorded for posterity in the court's meticulous records. These documents paint a vivid picture of a society grappling with the darker aspects of human nature, a chronicle of misdeeds and retribution that spans generations. Yet even in this world of shadows and suspicion, there are those who strive to bring light to the darkness. The Bow Street runners, predecessors to the modern police force, still operate in the margins, their methods unorthodox but effective. These proto-detectives navigate the treacherous waters of London's criminal underworld, gathering intelligence and bringing the most egregious offenders to justice. As you walk these cobblestone streets, every sense must remain alert. The rustle of fabric could be nothing more than the wind, or it could herald the approach of a cutthroat. The glint of metal in the lamplight might be an innocent trinket, or the blade of a would-be assassin. Trust is a luxury few can afford, and alliances are as fleeting as the morning mist. To survive in this world, one must learn the unwritten rules that govern the shadows. Know which taverns offer safe harbor and which are dens of iniquity. Recognize the subtle signs that mark the territory of rival gangs and tread carefully when crossing invisible boundaries. Cultivate informants, but never rely too heavily on any single source of information. In this game of cat and mouse, today's ally may be tomorrow's betrayer. The city's secrets are etched into its very stones, waiting to be uncovered by those with the courage to look beyond the surface. Abandoned buildings hold forgotten treasures and dark histories. Sewers and underground passages form a labyrinth beneath the streets, offering escape routes for those in the know. And in the fog-shrouded docks, ships from distant lands bring not only exotic goods, but also whispers of conspiracies that reach far beyond London's borders. As you delve deeper into the mysteries that plague this great metropolis, remember that knowledge is both power and peril. The more you uncover, the greater the target on your back becomes. There are those who would kill to keep their secrets buried, and others who would use your discoveries for their own nefarious ends. Every step forward is a calculated risk, a dance on the knife's edge between enlightenment and oblivion. But for those with the fortitude to persevere, the rewards can be great. Unraveling the threads of a complex plot, bringing a long-sought criminal to justice, or uncovering a truth that has lain hidden for generations. These are the moments that make the danger worthwhile. In a world where the line between hero and villain is often blurred, it is your actions that will define you. As dawn breaks over the city, casting long shadows across the cobblestones, take a moment to reflect on the night's events, the challenges you've faced, the allies you've made, and the enemies you've outwitted. All of these experiences have honed your skills and deepened your understanding of London's dark underbelly. But remember, in this world of endless shadows, there is always another mystery waiting to be solved, another danger lurking just around the corner. The gas lamps flicker low as night falls once more. In the mist, every shadow still hides a threat, and justice remains neither swift nor kind. But armed with your wits and the hard-won knowledge of survival, you step out into the gathering darkness, ready to face whatever challenges the city may throw your way. For in these streets, only the cunning and the brave can hope to thrive. As the fog lifts over Victorian London, we find ourselves at a crossroads of hope and despair. The streets, once teeming with the promise of progress, now echo with the footsteps of those seeking escape or enduring the harsh realities of a rapidly changing world. For many, the allure of distant shores beckoned. Immigration and emigration became the lifelines for those dreaming of a better tomorrow. The colonies, with their vast expanses and untapped potential, offered a canvas for new beginnings. Ships laden with hopes and fears departed from bustling ports, carrying souls eager to rewrite their destinies. Yet for every family that embarked on a journey across oceans, countless others remained, their feet firmly planted in the soil of their birth. They faced the challenges of a city in flux, where poverty and prosperity danced an uneasy waltz. In the labyrinth of London's streets, salvation took many forms. The Salvation Army, with its brass bands and unwavering spirit, marched into the darkest corners, offering sustenance and solace. Their presence was a beacon of light in the gloom of despair, a reminder that even in the depths of hardship, compassion could flourish. The ragged schools, born from the vision of charitable souls, opened their doors to those society had forgotten. Within their humble walls, children who had known only the harsh lessons of the streets found a glimmer of opportunity. These institutions, though modest in means, were rich in the currency of hope. As night fell, charitable shelters became havens for the destitute. In these sanctuaries, the weary found respite from the relentless grind of survival. The warmth of a meal and the comfort of a bed, however temporary, offered moments of dignity in lives often devoid of such luxuries. Yet even as these bastions of benevolence strove to mend the fabric of society, the city itself was undergoing a transformation. Victorian ingenuity was reshaping the very foundations of urban life. The advent of sewers, a marvel of engineering, promised to wash away the filth and disease that had long plagued London streets. Railways, those iron arteries of progress, crisscrossed the landscape, shrinking distances and expanding horizons. The rhythmic chug of locomotives became the heartbeat of a nation on the move, connecting communities and commerce in ways unimaginable to previous generations. And then there were the telegraphs, those invisible messengers that carried words across vast distances in the blink of an eye. Information, once bound by the speed of horse and sail, now flowed freely, weaving a web of knowledge that spanned continents. These inventions, born from the minds of visionaries and the hands of laborers, were more than mere conveniences. They were the building blocks of a new era, laying the groundwork for the modern metropolis that would emerge from the chrysalis of the Victorian age. Amidst this tapestry of change and challenge, the city paused to celebrate. Queen Victoria's Jubilee, a spectacle of pomp and circumstance, painted the streets with vibrant hues of patriotic fervor. Flags fluttered in the breeze, and cheers echoed through the air as the monarch, a symbol of stability in turbulent times, processed through adoring crowds. Yet behind the pageantry and beneath the bunting, the stark realities of poverty persisted. In the shadows of grand processions, families huddled in cramped tenements, their struggles a stark contrast to the opulence on display. The Jubilee, while a moment of national pride, also served as a mirror, reflecting the deep divisions that still scarred the social landscape. As the last notes of celebration faded, the city returned to its relentless march forward. The Victorian era, with all its contradictions and complexities, was laying the foundations for the Britain that would emerge in the century to come. The legacy of this time would echo through generations. The social reforms born from the crucible of Victorian hardship would shape the welfare state of the future. The technological marvels that had transformed the cityscape would evolve into the infrastructure of a modern nation. And what of those who had chosen to stay, to endure the challenges of a changing world? Their resilience, their determination to carve out a life amidst the chaos of progress, would become the bedrock upon which future generations would build their dreams. As we look back through the mists of time, we see a city, a nation, at the cusp of transformation. The choices made in those pivotal years, to escape or to endure, would ripple through history, shaping the contours of modern Britain. The streets that once rang with the cries of street vendors, and the clatter of horse-drawn carriages now hum with the energy of a new age. Yet if we listen closely, we can still hear the echoes of those Victorian lives, their struggles and triumphs woven into the very fabric of the present. In the end, perhaps the true legacy of the Victorian era lies not in the grand monuments or technological marvels, but in the indomitable spirit of those who lived through it. Their stories, whether of daring voyages to distant lands or quiet perseverance in the face of adversity, remind us of the power of human resilience. As we stand at our own crossroads, facing the challenges of an uncertain future, we can draw strength from the example of our Victorian forebears. Their journey from a world of stark contrasts to the foundations of modern society serves as a testament to the potential for progress, even in the darkest of times. The choice to escape or endure may look different in our modern context, but the underlying human drive to seek a better life remains unchanged. It is this enduring spirit, this unwavering hope in the face of adversity, that continues to shape our world, just as it did in the age of Victoria. As we close this chapter of reflection, let us carry forward the lessons of the past. May we approach our own challenges with the same ingenuity, compassion, and determination that characterized the best of the Victorian spirit. For in doing so, we honor not just the memory of those who came before, but also pave the way for a future that builds on their legacy of progress and perseverance.